Okay, so welcome. Now we can say officially welcome. And good afternoon, finally, to the webinar, The Future in Your Hands. That will be a lecture with the 3 experts to know more about what will be the future job market. And they will look and share the tips and tops as well for the skills that we will need to develop in order to be ready for this future market. So we have in the panel 3 experts. I will introduce first to Mr. Michael Rotterdam, who is the expert. I hope that I say well the last name. Sorry if I didn't do it. So he's expert of the marketing and communication sector. Actually, he is the senior marketing communication officer from the MME Group, which is a maritime company. He has a large experience in the sector and as well international experience, since he was the head of the representative officer in Holland Maritime House, Russia. And he has a degree in European Studies with focus in international communication management. Welcome to him. As well, we have in the panel Mr.Wilbert Lengton, that probably looks familiar and sounds familiar for those that are not with the camera, looks familiar to you because he's a lecturer in the whole school. He's a lecturer in finance and also have a large experience in these matters. He has a degree in Bachelor in Small Business and Retail Management and also an MBA from this university. And he is the proud owner of a very nice boutique winery called 596 Winery. And then you can visit later as well. Very nice wines, I have to say. And finally,
selling already. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not selling already. It's very, I mean, I saw the Chilean ones are good.
Nice.
But also we have in our panel our senior and expert senior recruiter, Dennis Smits, who is actually the recruiter manager from the company TFC Executives, who is a company that are focused in make the perfect match, the perfect personality match between the candidate and the company. And of course, he has a degree of commercial economics from in Holland University of Applied Science, and also possesses solid experience in the area, the human resources. And he was worked in many companies as Ordina Source Power and Experience IT. So thank you to all of them. Before they start actually with the presentation, we will want that if you have any questions, please leave it in the chat. So later will be answered from our experts. And please turn on the mics if you are not, you will not present. So we will have a clear presentation for all of us. Having said that, I want to say welcome to Michael Rotterdam. It will be our first presenter, and then we will continue with the rest. Thank you.
Okay, let me see. Let me share my screen. 1 second. So I suppose this is visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So, well, this is just the first slide. This is the introduction that Daniela already gave. I work for MME Group, which is a company that provides mainly non-destructive testing services, checking welds and other materials in all kinds of industries. And another business unit also sells systems and solutions to prevent corrosion on board ships, offshore platforms, and that kind of structures. Well, I was asked to give a short presentation about the current state of marketing communication in relation to the job market. And basically, if you look at marketing communications, as you see in this picture, it involves a lot of different fields, a lot of different channels, a lot of different things that you have to deal with. It's all kinds of channels, social media, website, trade shows, personal communication, all kinds of different aspects. And I have to admit that's also the case for myself. I mean, we are a 250 person company, and I'm the only one, currently the only one responsible for marketing communications. So in many ways, it feels like this. You're trying to keep all the plates in the air, or all the balls in the air, and you never succeed at it entirely. But you have to try and yes, put out your message in all the channels. Somehow try to monitor the engagement in those channels and get it further. What is necessary, and I'm working on this, but it's also a limitation in budget and in resources. But what you have to do is you have to somehow concentrate that in a funnel. So what you see here is the so-called race model for creating engagement. And basically, what you do in the first step, I can open this. Basically, what you do in the first step is you have your content wherever it is. It is your blog or your YouTube channel or your website or emailings that you send out, and that is sending your message out in all kinds of channels. And you hope that people, like in the second layer, find that content through search engines, through social media, through advertising that you do on different platforms.
Sorry that I interrupt you. I don't know if I see as well that I can see just first the initial slide. I don't know if it happened the same for all of you.
You don't see the current slide?
No, we see just.
Oh wait, maybe I just stopped sharing and then let's see.
Yeah, you can. You can see it now, and you can share. Okay.
So
otherwise, we can help them.
Let me share again and hope that you will see it now. Or maybe wait. Yeah, that's weird. When I went to full screen, so you can see it now.
We can see it now. Yes.
Yeah, and when I go to
share full screen if you prefer.
Yeah, I thought I did. So if I go to full screen, you see it?
It's not full screen yet. You have to.
So that's the problem. Just 1 second. I'm sorry. Why isn't this working? Let me see. So maybe go to. Somehow I think it's a setting in my Teams.
No worries. Do you prefer that we continue with the?
Oh, no, I think I found it. I just selected a single view. You see it in full screen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I clicked the wrong one. Sorry. So I was talking about this model, where you in the first stage, you set out your content in different channels, and you hope that people find it through search engines, through social media, through advertising that you do, through all the possible channels. In one case, when it concerns search engines, they are actively searching. When it concerns social media, it's often things that get shared or promoted by you or shared by people they know. And the goal is eventually, and this is the whole scenario, that you first create content, you spread it through those channels. You try to create engagement, so you don't just want them to see your advert or your blog post or whatever, but you want them to click on it and watch it or read it. What you also need to do is track the engagement, to have a feeling of which channels are effective and which aren't, because only views is, when you're Coca-Cola, views are nice, but you want more engagement. From that engagement, you hope to distill leads. You hope to find persons or organizations that are potential customers of yours. It is very rare that they will convert immediately. They see your message and they think, wow, this is for me, where can I buy? So what you have to do is you have to nurture them. So basically when they find you in the, I don't know if you can see my arrow as well. They find you in this stage of the funnel, and they go to the decision-making stage. So you provide them with more information, more technical data perhaps, to convince them. And if they are not convinced, then what you want is that they see you again on their timeline on LinkedIn or wherever, and you nurture them, you send them automated or semi-automated emails about the subjects that they have already clicked on, that they have shown interest in. So you nurture them to the point where they convert. So they become a customer, or at least they send a request for a quotation. And that's also where, of course, the interaction with the sales department becomes more important. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they become customers immediately. So sometimes you need to retarget them on the different platforms where they are active to finally get them to really become a customer. And once that has happened, you want to turn them into returning customers, and eventually you want to turn returning customers into advocates. So they are so enthusiastic about this whole process, about the customer journey. So not just the product that they got, but the whole process before it, and the feeling that's even in industrial and business to business setting, the whole experience and the feeling that they have afterwards has to be so positive that they become an advocate, that they start liking your content, they start recommending your company or your products or your services to other people. And that's a constantly iterating process. So depending on the stage they're in, if they don't convert to the next stage, then your content and your marketing automation has to be set up in such a way that they keep seeing you pop up in other places until the point that they are convinced that, okay, this is what I need. And that doesn't go for every one of us and every one of them, and therefore it's a funnel. It becomes narrower and narrower. And that is, well, at least in the sector where I'm active, the maritime and offshore industries, what is produced in this industry, for example, ships and offshore platforms, looks very impressive, but the industry itself is very conservative and old-fashioned. So few companies are approaching it in this way, and especially with automating certain steps in the list that you see here. But in the future, I think that these steps, this still is like the previous slide with the. So I don't actually know if you saw the previous one, because I was not sharing it correctly. So this was the one that I started with. So for many companies, and it also to a large extent still goes for my own company, are dealing with it like this. So you have all kinds of different aspects, and you try to keep them all in the air. With marketing automation, you try to put this all in one system that does a lot of the tracking and the drawing conclusions about which channels are most effective, which leads are ripe to harvest, so to speak, to become customers. You leave that up to an integrated marketing automation platform, and especially the nurture aspect is very important, because you cannot do it all by hand. And what I think in the future, that the amount of human input to create the content, to spread the content, and the rest of the steps will become less, and more in those automating marketing automation platforms will be done by artificial intelligence. Lots of the stuff that happens in the background in those kind of systems is already AI, from very basic A/B testing. When you set out two different kind of adverts on Google Ads or on LinkedIn or on Facebook, you can tell the system, okay, this is the two varieties, and you tell me after some time which one was more effective at achieving my goals, be it views or clicks or other kind of engagement. I think that will move further to AI. When you go to Zalando, for example, to find a pair of shoes, people probably don't realize it, but the description, the text that you see of that pair of shoes is in most cases already not generated by people. It's based on some criteria. It is generated by artificial intelligence, because the amount is just too big to have a team of people working on that. So the next question is, how is the job market in marketing communication at the moment? Marketing communication is a very generic field. So it's like accounting or human resources. It's necessary on almost all organizations. And there are a lot of generic candidates on the job market. So people that have like the generic education skill set, maybe some experience. But what is really needed is sector knowledge and experience. So people that in some way through internships or whatever, or maybe first or second job, already have some experience and knowledge in a certain sector. Because even if maybe their education is not an exact match, but they have the right connections and the right insight in what makes a certain sector of industry tick, then that is usually preferable. And I think also that education is still focused mainly on or to a large extent on what I showed in the second slide, like all the different classic skills like writing text, creating a scenario for a YouTube video, organizing a webinar like today. But the integration and automation aspect that I indicated will become more important, and I think that also needs to be addressed more in the education system, that people get experience in at least learning what they want to achieve with systems like that. And yeah, they already addressed this basically, that there will be a large demand for people that are able to set up, manage, and optimize platforms that are created for this kind of multi-channel marketing automation. So I just included a few logos of the most well-known and the market leaders in this space. I'm experimenting with HubSpot, which is a famous one, but there are others, and many of them integrate with each other and with CRM systems. Because of what I showed, like the move towards more artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and data science, in the background of those systems, people that understand what they want to achieve with that will also be in high demand, because you don't have to be like the AI programmer that develops the algorithms. You have to be aware of what you can achieve with them, and you have to be able to set it up, to manage it, and to optimize it. What I also think is inevitable, that skills and knowledge in open, permissionless, and decentralized technologies such as Bitcoin and blockchain technologies will be they are already in high demand, but that will only increase in the future. And with the whole 1.5 years or year that we have had, shows that remote work, deurbanization are also trends that are here to stay, I think. And that means that as a job seeker, you will be competing with people that sit with a laptop on the other side of the globe, and they might have a better skill set, or they might be cheaper, and that's also a new reality, so that you have to take into account. And when it comes to, besides the recommendations and the aspects that I also already mentioned, I think this also personal note is very, very important. So the earlier slides show that what will probably be needed, what you will probably get paid for. What you are doing now with your education is making sure that you are great at something that is also needed and gets paid for. And also make sure that you love it. So try to find that sweet spot. It's almost a utopia to find that like in your first or second job, but focus on where your passion is, and focus on what is the intersection of all those things, because that is basically what they call purpose, not just a job. That was my 2 cents.
Thank you so much.
So
very interesting.
I will stop sharing. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much to share that. It was very interesting, and those recommendations, and be aware of what is like technology will play a major role in the future. So now we will continue with the second presentation. It will be Mr. Wilbert Lengton. So we are ready for hear you and see you.
Good. Well, then let me see, where is my short presentation? I guess this is the one. I don't see anything appearing on my screen. Do you? No, not yet.
Of anything.
Let's try again. It should be this one. Open. Still nothing?
No. Do you
Wow.
prefer that we share the screen?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
It's
So Luz, can you, or Fiona, can you take that thing?
Yes, I will share my screen.
great.
Okay. So as all you say, we have with this new way of communication. Yeah, that's the one. Can you go to the first, please?
Can everybody see it?
Yeah, it will. We will see it. We will see it.
Was on, but
Now anymore? No. So you can reshare, please. Okay, can we go to the very beginning of the presentation? Perfect.
Yes, there we go. Perfect. Well, good afternoon to all of us. Thank you, Michael, for already starting to, well, clear the heat at least a bit for me. As Daniela already introduced me, my name is Wilbert Lengton, and I'm teaching as well finance and accounting and economics within the bachelor and the master department of Rotterdam University. And as we can see on the next slide, I'm also, besides a lecturer, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got my own online wine business, 5 to 9 wine. That's somewhere started with wines between 5 and 9 euros. But nowadays I expanded to over 529 different kinds of wine and different grape varieties. So that also clarifies the name. I was asked to come up with a short presentation about what will be the job market in the finance industry without any given time frame. Well, at least somewhere in the future, but when would it be, in next year or in 5 years time or in 10 years time? That was not really specified. And another question that was asked to me is, how did the crisis mold the finance market in the end? And then I was thinking about, maybe we can also already go to the next slide. What kind of crisis do we actually know? What type of crisis do we have? And I came up with, well, 5 major indicators about crisis. So the first one that we can see is a man-made disaster, and I have an example about that one. The same as for the second one. Malevolence, that is also, well, another word, evil. We will see that as well. We've got rumors that can create a crisis and chaos. Organizational misdeeds that more out of the recent years. And of course, as we know now already, natural disaster related to COVID. So the first one, the man-made disaster, is what we can see on, very good, this slide. The Great Depression out of 1929, caused by investors that they purchased all their shares at peak moments without even having some awareness that it could all collapse. Big disaster. As a result, the government came up with strict supervision on the whole banking sector. Now, to give you an indication about the cost by that time, $30 billion in 1929. Now, a key word in this Great Depression was actually the set of words without the awareness. People were not aware that they caused a crisis. And that is in contrast with the second crisis. The first oil crisis was caused by an artificial shortage of oil in Arab countries. Those people in those countries, they were aware that we all need some oil, otherwise we cannot contribute to our, domestic GDP, for example. As a result of that crisis, now we have some profitable operations in the North Sea area, pumping up some oil. And also all those big energy suppliers came up with additional funding for research and development for wind and solar power. So a crisis also created something good. And that is something that we will learn from moreover. Because also we had Black Monday on the next slide, 1987, caused by, well, a big problem somewhere in Japan, China, high inflation, a trade deficit, but also interest that we had to pay, increasing interest on short-term debt. That's on the next slide, by the way, Daniela or Fiona, I don't know. Again, as a result, the Federal Reserve, the American National Bank, they pumped a lot of money in the economy, but also some corporations purchased their own shares back to at least increase the share price of their own company. Now we also saw something organizational misdeed, and that is the actual, well, that's too fast. Organizational misdeed is what we saw during 2007 and 2008. Started the global, well, financial crisis, including the Eurozone crisis. And be aware that only living in the Netherlands or anywhere as a single country isn't enough anymore to protect you against a crisis. You will see that later on as well. We are all intertwined by now. We are a global citizen, and that also works within the Eurozone at least. A German bank lends out money to an Italian bank, and the Italian bank lends out the same money to Greek. Now, if that Italian bank defaults on paying back the debt, then it will have an effect on all our other countries and all other banks in all those countries. So don't think that you're alone in this whole crisis situation. The last example of a crisis that I came up with was a natural disaster with COVID. As for my first example, 30 billion estimated cost. Now we're talking about something else. 12 trillion US dollar. That is a lot of money. Really a lot of money. It also caused that some countries might be in a recession, some even in a depression. So at least 2 or 3 successive periods of a negative GDP growth. Now, will this all affect you? Yes. Is it really, really bad? No. As we can see on the next slide, the job market will boom again. And the reason, as you can see, made by Goldman Sachs only 2 months ago, key reason that we expect a quick labor market recovery is that 2/3 of the remaining pandemic job losses are in highly virus-sensitive sectors, where employment should rebound as soon as the economy fully reopens. So it's not really a bad thing. Yes, we are in debt by now, but as soon, and we're going there really, as soon as we're all back in the open economy again, those jobs will be filled up again in your tourism sector, in the aviation industry, everywhere. So we will get there, but we're not there yet. So my question is, as we know that the market is recovering and the market will expand as well, the question is, do we still need the same skill set, the same criteria that we had before this pandemic? And my answer to that one is yes. I guess that we need more. Now the question is, what then do we need? Now, as we all know that, or at least that's in our imagination, most employers want to hire an 18-year-old graduate student with at least 5 years of working experience at one of those big 4 companies, right? Now, we all understand that it's not possible. So then, do you really need a PhD or a master degree before you can enter the future job market? Of course not. Do you need to have all those years of working experience? No. Do you need to show off that you're a AAA student? No, not according to me. The question is, what do you need? Well, there are some pretty interesting skills that we can develop. Self-confidence, for example. You made it so far, so be proud of yourself. But be aware, knowledge still is power. So lifelong learning, very important thing. And nowadays for most students, an open attitude. Show yourself and turn on that camera. Also, when I look at my screen right now, I see a lot of initials, really, initials. Don't be shy, come out of your comfort zone and try to shine. That also brings you to well, more general skills, and I call them leadership. Show that you're eager, show that you're adaptable, and be flexible. The world is changing. And the other one would be, well, as I refer to it, language plus. So that's not only knowledge of your languages, but also get your facts straight, know your numbers, know the interaction between different cultures and how we can all benefit from it. As I said, you're a global citizen. So, and like Michael said, you might be competing against another, well, employee somewhere around the other side of the globe, sitting behind your laptop. Then always turn on your camera. But be aware about the differences there are. And that also brings me to one recommendation, which is pretty open to interpret. You cannot have $1 million dream on a minimum wage working ethic. So it's up to you how you want to define the future. You can do it the old-fashioned way, or you can try to adapt and work on your skills, especially during this pandemic. Show everyone that you were not idle, but you really developed yourself. Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you so much. It was very. I have an echo now. I have an echo. No, okay, perfect. Thank you so much for this presentation. I think that was very, very interesting and encouraged all of us. Yes, I see some claps in the audience. So we will now have our expert in recruitment, the senior recruitment, Dennis Smits. So Fiona, can you share as well the PPT?
Yes, I'm on it.
Thank you so much. I will remind all of us as well, if you have any questions, to place it in the chat. So that will be answered later of the presentation, after the presentations are finished. So we are ready. Yes.
Well, at least good to know that we're on the same page, all three of them. So I think it's going to be a more similar story than what my fellow colleagues already mentioned. But I think it's good from a perspective of, yeah, from the recruitment side. It could be interesting and say, okay, how will you present yourself into the market? How will you stand out against, yeah, maybe hundreds of thousands of other candidates that are available around the globe? So yeah, from my point of view, I'm a recruitment manager. Been in recruitment for, I think, since 2001. So that's basically 20 years. Seems like a long time, but yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Have been in a lot of different recruitment positions in different branches, but I also learned from a very young age that, yeah, IT, software development, data, things like that. Yeah, that's the future, and basically it's going to be the future for the next 5 to 10 years. I've been for 5 years team lead of the resource management team in Ordina. We were responsible for all external candidates that were placed at clients of Ordina. Ordina's primarily focusing on ministries, governments, tax offices, police departments, things like that. And after a while decided to, yeah, there's much more than just a technical skill. So if you have recruitment, there's a lot of recruiters out there in the market that, yeah, basically are just asking for your PhD, asking for your technical knowledge. Do you know Java? Do you know .NET? Do you know Python? Things like that. They're not really looking at who's the person behind the resume. What stands out? What makes one guy really successful in the current position, and what makes the other guy not being able to perform? So essentially, I was currently where I'm working at a TFC. We're an executive recruitment office. We primarily focus on C-level management positions, basically on marketing, communications, commercial positions, and a lot of IT positions, but primarily in senior project management and program management. And in those positions, you will see that, personality, the way that you can manage your team, that you can really get the best out of your team members is really important, instead of being very specialized in a certain technology. And in the end, if you can make sure that you have the right people on the right positions to have a best performing team, in the end, that's going to win the game. So in sports as well, you see that not just the best player will win the tournament, but in the end, it's going to be the best team that really wins the tournament, because basically everybody runs for each other and knows and to expect from each other what the position is in their team. And that's really, I think, really important. And a lot of young people are really focusing on getting to know technologies, getting ahead in the game, make promotions, going to management positions really, really fast. That's not always the best way to go. In the end, it's really important to know what your strengths are as a personality, because in the end, you want to be acting natural in your working environment, basically the same way that you're going to be acting in a private situation. When you hang out with friends, that's basically everybody has the same situation, tries to have the same situation. When you're working with personnel, with your colleagues, you're working more with colleagues than during the week for 40 hours or more, than basically hanging out with your friends. And it's a similar role. So if you're looking at, well, we had a really long time, a shitty year, but we all had that. So but there are some good things that we can think about in COVID. What did it give us? And I think there are a couple of industries that really let me check that. Really thrived in COVID times. We had to make sure that we had a new way of working. It's going to be more flexible, more from home, more online. But there are some industries that really benefited from COVID times, because people were staying home a lot. And for instance, one of our clients is Albert Heijn. Albert Heijn had a really, really good year. Basically, everybody was having lunch at home, having dinner at home, making sure that everything is okay. But although Albert Heijn had some problems in the beginning, because in the COVID times, there were difficult situations in the technology, because their current systems weren't up to times like COVID. For instance, if a supermarket normally orders, let's say 10 or 20 rolls of toilet paper, we all know in the first lockdown that everybody was running for toilet paper. Supermarkets would have to order maybe 100 or 200 times more than what they're used to, and the system crashed. So they had to rethink, make sure that everything was capable of working in a time like COVID. But they really thrive from it. And so I think data in all departments, data and technology is going to be the future, already is the future. And what we've learned in COVID times is that, the digital transformation within companies just been accelerated. There are a lot of companies that already have digital transformation in their strategic plans for the next couple of years. But in the end, we will see that COVID just made it happen faster. And I think that's going to be a really good chance for young people to get into the job market, to step in those new technologies and make sure that that companies transform faster than they're basically used to. I think healthcare is a different side because it's more human-minded than basically technology-minded. They're really different situations, but we all know that healthcare has been downsizing for the last maybe 10, 15 years. In the end, it's going to be the human works that's going to be really important in the future as well. Everything that's not basically tech-minded, but has some human interface with other human beings, basically is a situation that's going to be more and more important. And of course, the online platforms, the companies that provided technology for online meetings, online websites, web shops, everything that has to do with online, it's going to be more and more important. And they really thrived throughout COVID times. So there is a lesson to learn. And we go to the next slide. Can we? Yeah. Well, a little similar like my predecessors. I think the future job market is basically really getting more and more flexible for more companies that will offer more flexible workspaces. I think we're not going to go back to the situation that we had pre-corona, that we had a lot of traffic jams at 8:30 in the morning, 5:40 in the afternoon. They're going to be more and more flexible with company basically realizing last year that people can work from home. I think in the beginning there was a lot of anxiety of managers in this case and directors. What if my personnel didn't work? They went to the construction markets in the beginning, but as soon as they find out that it wasn't an extended vacation, then basically it was a situation that everybody needed to step up and make sure that they were able to do their job from home. So I think it's going to be more adaptable to the situation. You're going to be having flexible hours in a way that that we have a situation that there's somebody at the door. I'm sorry. He's calling, but I'm okay. No, I think the working hours aren't really specified between 9 to 5. As soon as you get into a situation that you have personnel actually not being localized in the cities near companies, I think you're gonna see a more flexible job market as well. So you can either start really early, start later in the afternoon, and basically to be in a situation that you'll be able to work at night as well, as soon as you get into a situation that you have a multinational company that you've been working for. So it's not necessarily being able to be very, very good at your technical knowledge, but in the end, it's going to be the different. Like Wilbert said, it's going to be your soft skills that's going to be primarily making the difference between whether you succeed or not. In the end, it's going to be, you're going to get hired on experience and knowledge, but in the end, it's going to be your personal and your attitude towards the company and towards your position that's going to make up the decision whether or not you could be successful or not. So if we go to the next slide. Yeah. What I would see in the future, I think it's more in line of the of Michael and Wilbert as well. I think technology is still going to be really important. Basically, data is key. Data is going to be the new gold, whether it's in blockchain technology or in adaptable technologies that is basically proven into the workspace. As long as in maybe in the back of your mind it's going to be an environmental change. So essentially everybody is going to be working with newer technologies. The technology is already here, but I think a lot of companies just didn't realize they needed to step up the pace. But I think COVID just accelerated that process a lot, and we need to stop thinking about what we can earn and maybe give back more to the world, and in the end make a more sustainable world. And if you're in a situation that you have a globalization of colleagues, that if I see all the names in the presentations, it's a very international company. So in that case, communication between different types of persons from different sides of the world is going to be really, really important. And basically your human skills are going to be maybe even more important than your technology skills. And make sure that you will have an idea about where you want to go. In the end, there's a lot of companies that keep sending people on trainings and on situations and on scholarships that basically improve your weaknesses. But yeah, where you're not good at is not necessarily a thing that you're gonna be good at if you train a lot. If you think about something that you like to do, you're bound to be good at it, and if you can train that, you're gonna be really, really good at it, and that's gonna make the difference between all the other candidates that basically want to apply for the same sort of position that you're applying for as well. So make sure that you're in a situation that you will be in your strength and you can do the things you love. But in the end, that's going to make the difference. So I think we have one more slide, huh? Yeah, from my recommendation, I think it's going to be completely in line with the other guys that talked about the current situation. We're thinking about the same situation. I think for market technologies, it looks a bit beta, but it's basically not. It's not all about technology. Well, for instance, we've all seen the movie Terminator from Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not going to be that bad, I hope. But in the end, you will see that in 5 to 10 years, a lot of jobs that don't necessarily require human thinking or creative thinking is going to be replaced by robots, by artificial intelligence, and technology like that. So you're either going to be in a situation that you're going to be really good in making those technology happen, or go into a job market that has a lot of human interface with the technology that you have. And you can for instance, you can think about marketing and communications, but between business and technology. In the end, the technology is already here, but there aren't a lot of companies that know how to use all the technology to get what they want. And I think that's going to be a main goal for a lot of young people, to invest in those kind of technologies and think about those markets, and basically figure out your own career path on that position. But I think that's going to be a really interesting 5 to 10 years to see where we end up, if we're gonna have a lot of technology that's gonna essentially replace a lot of people in the job market. So think about that. In a personal touch, what I see in a lot of positions that we have at the moment, basically on a daily basis, I've been talking to people that have really senior positions or really big companies with a really big salary, of course, but they don't all necessarily enjoy their work. So what I would give for young people to maybe not have a really specific goal in mind or know where they want to go, besides applying for a company or for a position, choose your manager. Choose a manager that you will have an idea that you can learn from. Not specifically only on the technology base, but who is a human who can know your worth, can know your strength, and can make you better. I think in the end, that's going to be decisive how fast you're going to learn in your new positions, basically on the capabilities of your own manager. So if you have a feeling that you're in a situation that basically your manager doesn't understand you, and all people are different. So it's really difficult for a manager to manage every single personnel that he has in the same way, because everybody is different. Basically, yeah, mirror your own personality and the things that you love and the things that you like, and the things that you want to do with the choices that your manager is making, and just be clear about it, because that's going to help you basically go through your first 3 to 5 years of your career without jumping too much, because in the end that's going to bite you in your ass in the moment that you're going to be a more senior colleague. If you have a situation, recruiters are going to look at that. If you have been in 5 different jobs in the last 3 years, people tend to think that you don't stay. You're a job hopper. You're going to jump in another company for, let's say, 100 or 200 euros more. And a lot of companies just really need people to, well, essentially focus on a midterm position for, let's say, 2 or 3 years and see what happens after that. So I think that's going to be important, and just choose what you love. I think there's a lot of different technologies and a lot of different positions that you can choose from, but in the end you have to choose what you think, and I'll bet you're going to be good at it. So basically that's it. I'm going to end up with a very techie line from Confucius, but it still works in the days like this. So if you choose a job you love, it doesn't really care how good you're at it. You're going to be good at it, and you never have to work a day in your life. So that's basically what I can offer you. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Dennis. It was like very, very interesting presentation. I hear myself, so maybe I will mute it. Okay, perfect. We have some questions placed in the chat. So, and I think that is addressed to you, but of course, if the other speakers can also address, will be interesting. So the first question is, what type of typical schedule do you foresee for most of companies that we will use it to schedules of, let's say, 5 days per week at the office? And then if you see that as a cross-cultural management could play a bigger role.
Sorry, for who is that?
Okay, the questions are in the chat. So maybe if, yeah.
Oh, I cannot see it.
So what type of, you're going to see it. So I will mention again. So what type of typical schedule do you see in the future for most of the companies that will use a scheme like 5 days per week at the office? What do you think in that sense? What's going to happen? And the next question is if the cross-cultural management will play a bigger role in that sense.
Well, I think we're not gonna go back to the situation that we had before Corona. I think a lot of people just eased into the idea that you're gonna have to work at the office 5 days a week for 40 hours a week. So we're all in the same traffic jams at 8:30 in the morning and in the same traffic jams in the afternoon. I think it's gonna be more of a hybrid version. Just like a situation that we have at the moment. If you need to be at an office to have meetings with colleagues or clients, you're gonna have to be there. But if you have to work for yourself, work on projects, figure out plans, make presentations, things you can do by yourself, I don't see any problem with managers who are susceptible to that, just working from home. So I think it's going to be either 50-50 or 60-40 or 70-30. It depends a little bit on what type of company. I think some companies are more conservative than others. But I think it will be, more of a hybrid version.
Thank you so much. So if we have like a couple minutes more for any other questions. So if there's any other question, you can place in the chat or you can open your microphone. Yes, we have a question. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, Daniela, can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah, can hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Mr. Von Esch for all the students there. First of all, on behalf of the RBS, before I ask my question, I want to thank all three of you, Dennis, Michael, and Wilbert, our own Wilbert, of course. I think that the presentations were excellent. I really enjoyed that. I'm not just saying that. I learned a lot from them. And I learned that the soft skills, the 21st century skills, are going to be fundamental to our success in the future and for most young students. So for me, yeah, very interesting presentations. I did want to ask a question actually for Michael. He was our first speaker, so but we haven't forgotten about you, Michael. You work, I guess I don't want to paraphrase you incorrectly, but you work in a more traditional or conservative industry. Would you be in agreement with that? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm the only one who's in the office at the moment, so that speaks for itself.
yeah, okay. So that's
no, but that's entirely correct.
Okay, yeah, maybe compared to the others. And what I was very curious about is when you presented the marketing funnel, is I was very curious about which channels, let's say of the more modern channels, social media, are effective for you in drumming up customers, clients in this type of more traditional business, because of course many of the channels you're using are more modern or let's say quite new. So maybe you could tell us something about that.
Yeah, I think first and foremost LinkedIn, because I think 90 to 95% of our target audience are active on LinkedIn. So doing campaigns there, doing advertising campaigns is one way. Until maybe 1 or 2 years ago, trade shows were also still very important, like the large international trade shows all over the world. It costs a lot of preparation, a lot of money, and we have seen that the results were dwindling over the past few years. So even before COVID, we decided to pull the plug on a few big exhibitions that we used to participate in, and mainly focus on one big shipbuilding exhibition that is in Rotterdam, probably next November. So yeah, and basically I'm 5 years in this company. I've been moving away from print advertisements because I get calls every day from magazines trying to sell advertisements, and I've basically been pushing that all into Google Ads and different online campaigns, because the measurability and the possibility to target very specifically is a lot higher.
Okay, thank you.
There's another question as well. I think all of this addresses to Dennis. It is, what type of specialists will be more valuable in the future? Those who have many skills in different disciplines, or those who have 1 or 2 skills but with greater depth? That's from Vladimir, the question.
Good question. I think it depends on in what kind of business you are. In some areas, a specialist is really important. The downside of it is if that technology is going to be obsolete for some reason, you don't have a backup plan. And I think a lot of technology is being used. I think the main focus is going to be in the job market is basically between technology and the business. So we have technology, and what can we use? How can we use technology to get our business goals, to meet our strategies, to meet our end goals? I think that's going to be the most interesting parts in the near future. So I wouldn't discourage being a specialist, because being a specialist at something can be really interesting as long as you're in a field that has a lot of potential. On the other hand, there are a lot of branches that usually require a lot of generalists. They're basically good at, moderately good at everything, because they're very adaptable to a changing environment, so they can jump in anytime they want. So I think it's a difficult question. Depends on the market and on the branch, but can happen both ways.
Okay, thank you. I hope that Vladimir is satisfied with that answer. and go for the skills. I think that we don't have any more questions. So, oh yeah, Vladimir answered. So I don't know. It is another. You can open your mic also. Okay, he said thank you. So because we don't have any more questions, thank to all of the speakers. We really are happy to have you, all of you, as our main speakers. And thank you to all the attendees that were like enthusiastic to even to share the screen. So they take your word, Mr. Lengton. They show. And thank you so much for this session. I hope and I wish you a great day. And yeah, this was the webinar, The Future in Your Hand. I hope that you all learned something of it. Thank you and bye.
Have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.